What's up guys, and welcome back to another Classic WoW guide video. As you all know, vanilla World of Warcraft has hundreds of thousands of different spells, items, abilities, and game mechanics that are implemented into the game's core design. The game is so complex, if any of you have ever tried to sit down and theory craft the most optimal way to play a certain class, or any other aspect of the game for that matter, you've realized it's near impossible. You end up finding yourself going down a rabbit hole that's never ending due to racials, consumables, buffs, professions, and quirky items that are found all over the world that have weird use abilities that can't be found anywhere else. Now this is the definition of timeless game design, and the reason why vanilla WoW fanatics are so excited for Classic to come out this summer. Now because of the fact that there are millions of different ways to play the game, whether your goal is to achieve the best in slot build for endgame raiding or PvP, or you're interested in making a meme spec for a certain twink bracket, I want to present this information in a way that will allow you to choose the most optimal race class combination for your liking. Today we're talking about priests and their racial abilities. In vanilla WoW, priests were unique because of the fact that they got 2 extra racial abilities that were exclusive to their race. That's right, not all priests are the same. In fact, these 2 extra spells that they have offer totally different playstyles from one race to the next. There are 5 races in Classic WoW that can roll priest. We have 3 on the Alliance and 2 on the Horde side. Now a few notes I want to make on these racial abilities. All of them are instant cast abilities. Some of them are channeled and some cost 0 mana to cast. And others have cooldowns ranging from 30 seconds to 10 minutes. Some of them are curses and can be dispelled, and one of them's a disease that can't be removed by a warlock's fell hunter's pet's ability, devour magic. Now, I point all these mechanics out just to highlight how diverse each priest is, and hopefully after this presentation, you'll have all the information needed to min-max your way to victory in Classic. Starting off with the Dwarves. Of course, they have Desperate Prayer and Fear Ward. Now, because of this racial fear ward, many people consider dwarf priests irreplaceable in the raiding environment because of this spell. There are numerous boss encounters where dispelling a fear on your tanks or fellow raid members is invaluable. It's also a fantastic PvP racial, negating warlocks, warriors, and other priest fear spells. Dwarves' second racial is Desperate Prayer, a last-second cry of help that can save you or your group members from death. It's an instant cast ability that costs 0 mana and has a 10-minute cooldown. This racial allows you or your group to push the limits just a little bit more in any PvP or PvE setting. And this is a great spell that gives the dwarves, and as you'll see on the next slide, human priests a chance to make some pretty cool highlight reels in Azeroth. Next up we have the humans, who share the Desperate Prayer ability with the dwarves and have their own unique racial, Feedback. Some history on this spell. This was the primary ability used by human arcane towers and blood elf spellbreakers during the Third War in order to combat other mana using units. Now feedback is really interesting in how it works, and it can be extremely powerful if implemented in the perfect situation. So while feedback is active, it has a 15-second duration and a 3-minute cooldown. So it needs to be activated in the right situation, but on successful spells cast against the priest, depending on the rank you have active, it will drain the enemy's mana from 18 points a cast to 105 points each cast and deal shadow damage equal to that amount. So this is kind of like a weird iteration of a counterspell. Feedback doesn't trigger on spells that you would resist, but it does work on spells that you absorb, for instances where you would have a power word shield up. So you can imagine in a PvP setting, you see a mage start casting a pyroblast on you, go ahead and throw up that power word shield and feedback, and you just negated his pyroblast and inflicted a little bit of damage back to him. Now it gets even better. The most optimal time to use this ability is against channeled attacks, like when a warlock would cast Drain Soul, or a mage would cast some like arcane missiles at you. Feedback activates on every tick of that channeled cast. So this means you're going to effectively drain their mana and their health at the same time at a fast rate during those channeled spells. This is a really nice ability to have in your back pocket and will always make opponents think twice about casting channeled abilities against a human priest. The last priest on the Alliance side are the Night Elves. Now these spells aren't considered the most powerful, but again, they're very situational just like the rest of the priest racials, and from a role-playing, immersive perspective, these might be some of the coolest priest racials in the game. Elunes Grace, it's a buff that reduces ranged physical damage, not spell damage, and increases your chance to dodge melee attacks by 10% for 15 seconds, and it has a 5-minute cooldown. This spell, of course, is referring to the Night Elves' moon goddess, Elune. She has many titles: the Mother Moon, The Moon Goddess, the One, the Night Warrior, the one true god of Azeroth, and of course, she's praised and recognized by the Tauren Druids as Musha. She is the mother of Cenarius, and in Tauren mythology, Musha is the left eye of the Earth Mother. This major deity is worshipped by the Night Elves, and to have a racial ability that comes from the Moon Goddess herself is second to none. As for starshards, this 6-second channeled cast rains arcane damage down on the enemy's head, increasing in the amount of damage dealt the longer the cast is held. So 3 to 4 ticks are cast in the last 3 seconds compared to 2 ticks in the first 3 seconds. Starshards is the less powerful version of the spell Starfall, which is used by priestesses of the moon, referring to elunes followers such as the leader of the Night Elves, Tyrande Whisperwind. Priestesses of the moon in traditional battle served as morale boosters for the rest of their army. They normally hang in the back, healing their troops and aiding them by raining down spells such as Starfall on their enemies. Starshards is a nice instant cast damaging ability with a fairly low mana cost, which is appealing to certain playstyles. So if you're not interested in playing defensively or reactively with racials that dwarves and humans may provide, and you want to immerse yourself as another follower of Elune, the Night Elves may be the right choice for you, offering this bonus DPS ability. Now for the Horde, both the Undead and Trolls can be priests. The Undead have access to Devouring Plague and Touch of Weakness. The Devouring Plague afflicts the enemy target, causing X amount of shadow damage over 24 seconds. And the priest is effectively healed for the amount of damage that Devouring Plague causes. And an interesting point to make on this ability is that it's a disease, which means Warlock Fellhunter Pet's Devour Magic ability won't remove this spell because it's not a curse, rather a disease, and that goes for other classes as well. And that's just one instance of how this racial can be advantageous. I'd love to hear everyone else's knowledge about these racials, as I'm sure everyone else would in the comments, so don't be afraid to point them out. Also, the Devouring Plague has a 3-minute cooldown, so it can't be spammed over and over. As for the Undead's second racial, we have Touch of Weakness, a spell that will be activated the next time the priest is hit by a melee attack from the enemy. Upon the first melee hit, the enemy will be damaged for X amount of shadow damage and reduce the damage caused by the attacker for, again, X amount for 2 minutes. Now, the damage reduction isn't really the effect that we're looking for with this racial, rather, we're focused on the shadow damage that's dealt to the enemy. If you're a Shadow Priest and you've invested in the Shadow talent tree heavily, you're going to have the talents Shadow Weaving rank 5 and Blackout rank 5, which increase the amount of shadow damage dealt to the target, and it's stackable up to 5 times, as well as getting a 10% chance for Blackout to proc and stun the enemy for 3 seconds. Now, this racial ability adds a unique playstyle to the priest with an additional shadow damage spell that can proc your abilities in your talent tree. So if you're considering speccing in Shadow as a priest on the Horde, these 2 shadow damage dealing racial abilities should be taken into consideration. Last but certainly not least, we have the Troll Priest. Trolls are considered by some as the go-to priest for the Horde because of their shadowguard racial, but like I noted earlier, the best priest for you to play is the one that suits your playstyle the most. By no means can one race be considered supreme among the other racial abilities. So the Trolls have access to the Hex of Weakness and Shadowguard spells. Hex of Weakness is a curse which can be dispelled, but it effectively weakens the enemy target, reducing their damage caused, again, by X amount, and always reducing the effectiveness of any healing spell cast on them by 20%. Now, this is one of the reasons why I listed out every single spell's rank, because of unique instances like this. In my opinion, the game mechanic can be exploited, or for better terms, used to your advantage, because you can get the same effect out of the rank 1 spell as you would with the rank 5 spell at literally 15% of the mana cost. What I'm talking about is the reduction in healing by 20%. This debuff can be applied with the rank 1 spell for only 35 mana. Now imagine where this could be useful. I see myself being in a Arathi Basin, fighting over the lumber mill in a 7-on-7 battle and filling in the healing role. I'm sitting in the back of the pack like a priestess of the moon would and throwing power word shields on my allies and healing them, while in my downtime I'm casting Hex of Weakness rank 1 on all the enemies in order to reduce the healing effects from the healers on their team by 20%. The amount of mana spent on all 7 targets is equal to the mana cost of 1 rank 5 Hex of Weakness. Do you guys see the rabbit hole you can find yourself in real quick when trying to find out the best possible priest to play due to racial abilities alone? Now let's move on to the Shadowguard spell. Considered one of the most powerful priest racials because of its low mana cost and ability to always have this buff active and working for you. Now, Shadowguard works very similarly to Shaman's Lightning Shield, in the fact that it has 3 charges and causes damage to melee and spellcasters upon each successful hit. A notable difference is that Shadowguard doesn't create any type of threat, which is an awesome added benefit in a group setting. Shadow damage from Shadowguard scales with the priest's spell damage, and just like the Undead's Touch of Weakness and Devouring Plague abilities, has the chance to proc certain shadow damage talents as well. Now that we've gone over each priest's racial abilities, here's some things I want you to consider when choosing the perfect priest for you. Do you have a defensive or reactive playstyle? Do you like managing cooldowns or always making sure your buffs are active? Do you like building your talent tree based around your racials, aka Shadow Priest? Maybe you fit more in the role-playing aspect and you want the blessing of Elune everywhere you go and rain down starshards on your enemies just like the priestesses of the moon have done for so many years. These are just a few ideas I want you to think about when figuring out which priest best suits you. And hopefully in the near future, I can get someone who's played priest for years and elaborate on some of these ideas and really explain the overall impact that these racials may have on your experience as a priest. So there's a lot to consider when it comes to choosing the right race for your priest come Classic WoW. I truly believe that the game is best played by individuals when they choose classes and specs that cater to their personal playstyle and don't just copy some cookie cutter build or some guy's personal opinion online, even like this one. So in all my future guide videos, I'll be formatting them in a similar style such as this one, with all the classes, ranks, and abilities laid out in a similar fashion, giving you guys the opportunity and the resources needed in order to theory craft your own builds and playstyles in Classic WoW. Now, why am I doing this, you might ask? That's a lot of effort for your guide videos, right? Well, the really cool thing about making content for Classic WoW right now is that we already know all the abilities and spells and items that are in the game. So this allows me to make content similar to Vanilla's game design. Timeless. These charts and PowerPoints can be referenced to for the rest of time, which really makes me happy and motivated to provide guides and PowerPoints similar to the one here. An added benefit is that these PowerPoints, they can be edited and added to at any time, which is just the perfect formula for successful guides. Now, I apologize for not posting the last week, but dude, the week started off, I tried to make a video and honestly I thought it was crap, so I scratched it. It took like 2 days. And then I've literally spent like the last 40 hours this weekend researching and cutting out and pasting each class's spells and all their ranks in order to give you guys the visual aid and opportunity to again theory craft all the ideas I present in my videos going forward, as well as working on the first extensive dungeon guide this week for Wailing Caverns, which again has taken over like 40 hours this past week to piece together. And I actually needed this PowerPoint for that guide, so I figured I'd go ahead and make a video on the priest racials. All this being said, if you'd like to support me on Patreon and help me to be able to make more videos like this, I would be so grateful. I really would. I've been waiting to open up Patreon and other services to make money until I felt as if I was established and I found my niche in the Classic WoW community, which I think I have. And here's a list of guides and visual aids you can expect to see from me before Classic comes out this summer. My focus is going to be on making a complete dungeon guide series for Classic. If you guys saw my theory crafting video on the Wailing Caverns, you saw the amount of detail I'm putting into those guides, and I'm going to be providing that for each guide going forward. The Wailing Caverns video is almost done, so you'll be able to see what you're going to support if you were to subscribe to me on Patreon or subscribe on my Twitch channel or donate to me personally in the future. A couple other things I'm going to provide for my Patreon page are gold making guides, exclusive to that Patreon page, in order to preserve the farm and give you guys the illest spreadsheets for flipping quick gold by just doing a quick research on the auction house or scouting out certain honey holes found out in the world of Azeroth. Also, last thing, I'm going to be doing weekly update videos for people who subscribe for X amount of dollars, which will be a personal post updating you guys on my venture and my journey to making content for Classic WoW all the time come this summer. So this will be more of a personal post where I talk about things that just don't really have a place on my YouTube channel right now and give you guys an opportunity to keep track of me and know exactly what you're supporting. Either way, the majority of my guides are going to be available to the public for free, so don't feel as if you have to support me financially. One of the best ways you can support me on all my videos are by giving each one a like and commenting your own thoughts on each one. It really is appreciated, and guys, I can't tell you how much I appreciate and love interacting with y'all in the comment section. Like, that's literally the reason why I'm running this channel, so I'd love to see you down there. Word of mouth is one of the best advertisements for me as well, so if you feel as if I've got some worthy guide videos coming up in the near future, please share them with your friends. Again, these guides will have a focus on displaying hundreds of abilities and items on screen in order for you to come up with your own way to play the game. Like, guys, that's what I'm so excited about. These are the kinds of videos I want to watch. These are the kind of PowerPoints I want to look at in Classic WoW. Even something as little as priest racials. I want to know at what rank I can train each one and what it does. And granted, I know I can just look this information up on the database or make an Excel sheet, but honestly, it's impossible to micromanage all that information. It's so much easier and possible to theory craft and come up with new ways to play the game if you've got all these abilities listed in front of your face. Like, what's the best priest racial for my spec in the level 39 bracket that focuses proccing my shadow damage talents, right? Those are the kinds of thoughts that go through my head, and I want to be able to analyze on some type of visual spreadsheet. So it's neat making these slides. Really, I do it for my own benefit because this is what I'd want to use in Classic WoW, and it's an added bonus that I get to share this content with you guys. And once I get my own personal database complete, guys, oh my gosh. One of the PowerPoints I'm most excited about personally are the class ability PowerPoints, displaying every ability and its rank. It's going to be sick. Also, make sure to check out our website, ClassicWoW.LIVE, for more guides and forum posts similar to this one. Thanks for watching and supporting. It's your boy, Graysfordays. Howdy!